as the weather makes it waiting for us to get out and grab maybe a snowy Starbucks or something. So what we'll do is we're gonna zoom through things. We're not gonna stop in the middle, and I'll finish a bit early. So you have me for 2 times. You're lucky, it's only 2 times. But this time I will be doing a lot of the talking. There will be pauses, there will be time for you to do some things. Not as much as the next time. The next time will be right before Easter, I believe. And that time is going to be kind of reviewing what we are talking about today, just the bits and pieces that we're going to cover, and then it'll be in-class case studies and presentations. And the case studies, I've tried to create things from what I've been hearing about youth service and bits and pieces of experience. So if you have anything that you would like to discuss, you heard something, you saw something in your practicums, send a message to YMCP admin, they'll send it to me. I'll create a case study and we could dump it in and work on it together. It's always fun to be here. I know that the group is much bigger this year, but I guess with the time change and everything happening, I like it small. So I've been doing this since we started. I think this is the only real official service I'm still doing in the church. Everything else kind of evaporated. So, and I think it's because I have the person in charge at home. So I risk, losing my place at home if I say no to YMCP. So that's the only thing I'm still doing formally. Just a little bit, some of you know me, some of you don't. I see some really interesting names on the screen. I know they know me in different contexts, but I've been doing things in leadership officially for now 14 years. I've been the principal at PCC for 14 years. But also I did study quite a few things in leadership. So I do hold a master's degree in educational leadership. And I did my training with John Maxwell Leadership. So I'm a certified Maxwell speaker coach and so on. So I do all his courses. And what I did this year, which is different, and I think every time I do this course, I try to do something different because I get bored of what I say. And one of the things I did this year is I included some of Maxwell's leadership 2.0 kind of things. So we usually have very confused thoughts about leadership. And there's always a question I ask, and I'm not going to ask it for you to answer this time, but are leaders born or made? Keep that in the back of your mind. It's an argument I've had. I know you guys were talking about your practicum, some of you saw your servants. I've been having this argument with the servants that you had when they were at YMCP. So it's an ongoing argument with them. But before we start, I like to kind of dig in your minds. I want you to take 30 seconds and think of one leader who has impacted your life. This leader could be a priest, a bishop, one of our popes, a Sunday school servant, a parent, a coach, a boss at work, even someone that you served with or someone that you served. Take 30 seconds and think of that person. And it's hard because I've been thinking about it all day. Now, I want you, those online, I guess you can't turn to the person next to you, but I want you to take notes. Those in person, turn to the person next to you or behind you and share who that leader was and what did they do to impact you. You guys need to share because you're going to share with me. Seriously? Seriously?
Sorry.
So Christina,
Oh, no.
because you came late,
No.
you're gonna answer this as an example for everybody. So what we just asked was, I want you to think of a leader who impacted your life. It could be a teacher, it could be a servant, it could be a priest, it could be a bishop, it could be even someone you served with, someone you worked with. Who was it Why did they impact your life? And how did they impact your life? And I know you're all looking at like the Synaxarium and the saints, but I wanna come to play like to now times, not the Synaxarium. Okay, who'd like to share? Margot?
He's your brother.
Your brother, okay, tell me a little bit.
He's wise.
Older or younger?
He's older.
Okay, yeah, because my younger brother's not that wise, no. We won't go there, it's a family problem.
And
You know, recording.
I know, and he's a lawyer, he's the most wise person in our family. I might be sued after this talk. So your older brother, okay,
wise and he's always right.
he's always right, okay. How did he impact your life?
He's always calm and cool. And like he's always there for me.
Always there. Good, I like that, always there. Okay, Christina.
Yes. I would say my high school, Sunday school servant, like all of them, sure, but like there was like specific ones who were like extra there for you and like, and whenever you had a problem, whenever you had, whether it's a spiritual problem, like a friend problem, whatever problem, they were there for you, like they had an answer for you, and like I feel like, especially in YMCP, that's something that I like I'm here because of them, because they taught me how to be such a good and caring and loving servant. And like, yeah.
Okay, good. Karina.
For me, my sister.
Good.
So like she, to me, she's a leader, but she's kind of my soundboard. And even if it's something that's not related to, for example, I went to a completely different field in school compared to.
You're opposite.
Exactly, but she always like encouraged me, and helps me to be better. Like if I am, oh, I don't know if I should do this, she's like very objective, tells me no, like you can do it.
Okay. Question for you. You've picked your siblings, you've picked your Sunday school servant. If I were to talk, would be my grandmother. And I was share, she's the reason why many of the children that go through education in my world are traumatized, because she was the reason I got into education. So it's her fault. But my grandmother was the silent leader. She was a woman of impact. I always wanted to be a teacher because Teta was a teacher. But I think this was firmed up a lot more as I got older. Teta cared. Teta never said a negative word about anyone. Even when I remember one time they were talking, the sisters were talking to her and they were reminding her of one student who bullied one of her kids. And all she did was just quiet, didn't comment. So her kindness and her silence were a lot louder than anything else. And later on, I actually met someone who was her student. And that person, when I met them, they were a grandmother themselves. And they were asking me about their teacher. And that resonated in my mind all along. I want to be that person that makes an impact. So we've all said family members. Christina said a Sunday school servant. Is it because of their title that we see them as leader, or their influence in our lives? Influence, right? And that's very important. You are going to be serving youth. Most of the time, they're gonna make you pull your hair out one hair at a time. Okay? And somehow you're gonna still love them at the end of the day somehow. But yeah, they're gonna be tough. And when you go back and years later, some of you are saying, you know, we started our practicum going back to the service where I grew up at, the nostalgia, right? The feeling that you belong, that the Sunday school servant that you're with. I got the blessing in the last 4 years of serving high school, where all the servants that were in my group I was responsible for were actually my Sunday school kids one day when they were in high school. So not only did I serve them, but I had the blessing of serving with them. So this this leadership quality is how people influence you. You'll find that when you're talking about that leader, you'll be thinking about the way they cared about you. Christina mentioned that. Margot mentioned that. Marina mentioned that. They invest in you. They take the time out of everything and they're there. They don't have to be there for like 200 hours on Friday night. Sometimes it's just the one word they say. They believe in you. And they help you grow. So you're about to enter this youth ministry and you're about to become leaders in it. And a leader is not usually just a coordinator, but a Sunday school servant, right? A few months ago when we were saying goodbye to JP Iskander, and the kids got up to speak about him. Now I know these kids, so I know how difficult that group is. They're great kids, but they're troubled. They're the Sha'aya boys, like the Sha'aya. They're not evil, but they cause trouble. Just the trouble that you wouldn't mind. It's not damaging, but it could really, when you're trying to do a Sunday school lesson, get under your skin. Hello. And it was very interesting how they all spoke about how much he cared about them. Now, I grew up with JP, so I know he wasn't as calm as he became later on in life. I think our group was quite loud. But when they stood up to speak about him, one of the kids talked about the time he was kicked out of class because he was being noisy. And instead of being kicked out and left out, JP actually went with him and his friend, and they did the Sunday school lesson together still. This is a person who impacted lives. And that's a real trait of leadership. It is not about the title. It is not the I in leadership. There's no I in leadership. And we'll talk more about this as we go forward. But as you're entering into this, it is the impact of souls that you worry about. So, I'm trying to play with this technology. If we are talking about leadership, there are 3 things that you need to know. And we're going to talk, I know you just finished the management part of things, and we're going to talk about the difference between leader and management. But a leader has a vision and a direction. Vision is very important for a leader. And you'll find that leaders are very much about people. Manager is about the task. Leaders, it's about the people. And when you have a vision and you believe in the vision, you'll find that others are following along. In my line of work, my staff hate one sentence I always say. The minute I say I have a crazy idea, they run away. They think like they know what's coming their way. Last time I said that, I was opening a different campus halfway around the country. So it's like it's always a crazy thing. But we always joke about this. They run away and they come back because there's a vision. There's something that we're all working towards. Leaders really work on that direction. They provide a clear vision and guidance. And they will do that through example, through talking, through actually setting that clear expectation to people. It won't come just in like paper and pen. You'll find when I'm at work, I will not tell a teacher to do something unless I've done it myself. Okay, so, and that's very important when you talk about leaders. When you're talking to youth, kids read through you and they know who's authentic, and this is something that we'll talk about later on, and who's not, who has a clear vision. Why am I there Friday night? Is it because it's the next thing I need to do in service? I moved to high school after I've taught them until grade 6. I took a break from them in junior high, and now I want to go to grade 9 and be a high school servant. Think about it in the back of your head. What's your vision as a servant? Is it about you, or is it about the kids that you serve? Number 2, leaders have influence. And they really love serving others. So true leadership is measured by the influence, not so much the position. Leaders serve others and inspire action through relationships and traits. Today's Pope Kyrillos' feast. Did you hear about Pope Kyrillos getting involved in politics? Did you hear about Pope Kyrillos standing up in front of the king of Ethiopia when he came in his capes and his glory? Or any of you heard Abuna Rafael's stories when he had a fight with Pope Kyrillos because the kings were coming in and they were grand opening the cathedral, and Pope Kyrillos put on his tunya and came down like everyone else. But the impact and the influence of Pope Kyrillos on the church is felt till today. Why? Because this was the Pope who put all his attention in prayer, who changed the church from being chaos. There were stories about women going into the altar, putting the kids on the altar. No fasting was being observed. The laity were the ones running the church. When he came in, he was frowned upon because he did not have higher education. They didn't want him. But what happened? He became a person of influence through prayer, through his relationship with the people. Pope Shenouda, the guy started off his papacy and then was put in prison under house arrest. But in that time of house arrest, did the church stop? Or did his influence go out of those imprisonment walls? And number 3, growth and development. If you are a leader, you never stop learning. There's always a joke in our house. Abuna Pshoy made fun of me all the way until he caught on this virus. He used to say, since we got married, he never saw me without a book or studying or looking up a course or thinking of taking a course. Now he caught up and he got 2 PhDs under his belt. So and by the way, there is a joke with this. Yes, I'm in education, and yes, I run a school. But since I was 3 years old, there's one sentence I say every day: I hate school. It's something I hate studying. I hate school. However, have I ever stopped studying? No. Have I ever stopped learning? No. And that's something that when you become a leader, whether in your work or whether in your service, you don't stop. It's very interesting when I hear young servants talk about topics that are so important now for our youngsters. Before you guys joined, we were talking about social media. And sorry. We are talking about social media, okay? And I think if we talk about social media, it is one of the biggest nightmares all of us are living through today, correct? And it's interesting because it starts at a very young age. They're exposed to this and they grow into it, and parents are oblivious sometimes. And us as Sunday school servants and as leaders in the church, we want to almost close our eyes. We almost want to say, no, but they're just kids. No, they can't be doing this. I want to tell you, go learn, go read, go find out. Because the truth of the matter is, there is a bigger society out there that's impacting your kids. They're no longer the cute kids you used to have in kindergarten, or they're no longer the cute kids you used to have in grade 2 and 3. They're exposed to things, and the problem with these things is they get exposed without being given the tools to know what's right and what's wrong. And so what's my job and what's my role as a servant is to become knowledgeable, to be able to help them stand and withstand the pressures of what we're living through. Well, I will say everything is lawful for me, but not everything is permissible, correct? So yes, it's okay to be 13 years old and on Snapchat, but what are you sending on Snapchat? Did you know that Snapchat is the #1 sexting platform for preteens and teens? A lot of you are young, not as young as Margot and I, but guess what? You guys are even old now. Because your generation, what the kids are going through now is a million times worse than when you guys were growing up. The problems we used to deal with in high school, I'm dealing with it in grade 5 and grade 6. How am I changing this? I need to be up to date. I need to be an effective leader by actually learning, by developing, by getting out there and making it a point that I educate and I get educated in the things ahead of me. Now, I want to take you back in time. We talked about the vision and we talked about and the clarity and so on. One of the best summaries that took place in recent history about true meaning of leadership happened on the day Pope Tawadros became Pope. And that day, I actually was there. I attended. This was the coolest thing I've ever watched in my life. And you have to understand the church was under tremendous pressure. This was during the peak of brotherhood. In order for them to actually bring the government to attend the papal enthronement, they told them they'll be on TV. So the prime minister came, and this is out of the bishop that actually was in charge of inviting them. And what was much more emotional was Metropolitan Bohemios and Pope Tawadros. Metropolitan Bohemios, God rest his soul, was the Metropolitan of Beira. And Beira is not a big province, it's a small province. Our extended family was originally from there. And one thing about Amba Bohemios that I grew up knowing all my life is he knew every single person in that diocese. And it's a smaller space, but lots of people. Every single person, everything about them. And Pope Tawadros was a kid when he was in that diocese. He grew up as a kid in that diocese. He went to Alexandria to study pharmacy and came back to serve in that diocese. So this is a metropolitan for like 1 million years. And now he's standing in front of the whole world where his son has now become his father. And so I always like to play this video to kind of reflect on the true meaning of leadership when it comes to service.
في هذا اليوم نزلل الورقة الكنيسة للقداسة الجديد وإن كان الرب قد استخدمنا في الفترة الماضية لكي ما نتحمل مسؤولية العمل. إلى الأتى بنا إلى هذا اليوم المبارك. يا أهل الباري أن كنا تسلمنا مسؤولية الكنيسة إلا أننا نرجع إلى إمارسيتنا صغار تحت أوقات وكاس الأكلين.
Let's stop it here. So, I'm not sure what's happening. I think I was it needs to mute on your thing.
Mute your computer.
My computer, sorry.
Yeah, dog.
Now I'm good. Now I'm good? Perfect. Okay. All right, so I remember that day very clearly, and the one sentence that really stood out was, I've done my role. I've influenced the church when God needed me to influence, and I'm now going back to my diocese under the feet of the Pope. Now, this was it's a normal thing, but when a father goes down and is so humble, it is a true reflection of the influence this man had. And Pope Tadros openly talks nonstop about how growing up in the diocese of Beira, the impact and the influence Metropolitan Bohemians had on them. I mean, I remember as a kid, he taught me since I could remember that I learned how to speak. What's your name? Phoebe. Where is it found? Romans 16:1. Who is Phoebe? St. Paul's servant in the church of Centuria. So since I was yay high, when he used to come visit my grandmother's, he would always tell me this. And this is the impact, this is the influence. All my life, I knew exactly where my verse is from, where my name is from. John Maxwell, when he talks about leadership, he talks that leadership is all about influence. How are you influencing people? Do you listen to them? Do you care about them? Do you respect them? But they're just kids. They're just teenagers. I will tell you this. These kids that you're about to start serving, they need more respect than anyone else. Because this is the time when they are teenagers that they need to learn to respect themselves. And the only way they could respect themselves is if they are respected. I'm not saying that when they do something wrong, we say, oh, I respect your opinion for trying weed. It is your opinion and I respect. No, but I'm talking even in the way we speak to them. I always argue about this with some of my staff. I sometimes will speak really rough with the kids, the high schoolers, but there is a rapport there, right? And because I have that rapport with them, I could say something or I could stay silent and I'll have much more impact than a teacher who will yell and yell and yell and yell. Think of that Sunday school servant who's obnoxiously loud and meant nothing to you. And that servant that wasn't loud didn't do much, but you know what? You did not want to upset them. You didn't want them to not be happy with you. Is there that servant in your head? Because it's that servant who influences you. And it's all about service. John Maxwell once says, whoever wants to become great, not John Maxwell. Jesus says, whoever wants to become great among you must be a servant for all. So if you're going in to high school service because you're going to be the youth servant, the one and only one that will make a difference, you are promoted to youth service because that Sunday school or that junior high service is not of the caliber of you. You're going in the wrong business. Okay. Now we're going to go on and we're going to talk about the essence of Christian leadership. Number one, if we are to talk about the characteristics of the leadership, you must have a servant heart. Servant heart is something that's extremely important for you to have. Think about the people that you told me influenced your life. Margot, you said something about your brother. He is always ready and he's always there. Right? Verena, she's your sounding board. Service. That's the key. Once you have the servant's heart, then you're really able to build the people that you're going to serve. Number two, the call of Christian leadership. It's a divine purpose. You're not going in there because you're going to do the best Sunday school service and the best Sunday school lessons. I can tell you, some of the servants that impacted our lives growing up in this church were not the ones that planned all these great activities. But they were the ones who took time on Saturday morning brought us to their house to bake cookies, and then brought us to church for confession. Okay? They were those servants that really impacted our lives because their life was not just something that they lived, it was something that they knew they had a calling. And the practice of Christian leadership, you need to pray a lot, you need to have a filled spiritual life. You cannot go into your youth ministry with an empty cup. You cannot have a double standard where on Friday night you are telling them thou shalt and thou shalt not. And on Saturday night, you're doing exactly what you told them not to do on Friday night. And even when no one's seeing you and when no one knows what you're doing, those kids will read right through you. They're a lot smarter than you think. And this goes actually throughout any service. Pray a lot. Know what your calling is. I will tell you this, long time ago, I was serving with, this was like a long time ago when we had boys and girls together in high school service, like prehistoric times for you guys. But we used to have that because our numbers were very low. And I remember I had 2 male servants with me. And here's the fun part. I had one, he actually served with me for 4 years, and then we started again 4 more years. So we ended up serving together for 8 years. And one of them, a second servant, he only served with us for about 4 years. One of them was really good at lessons. And me being a teacher, I had no problem whipping up a lesson in no time, standing up and buying myself some time with people and doing my lesson and no problem, right? The other one, the other male servant, if his life depended on it, his lessons were horrible. Horrible. He knew it, like he hated lessons. He didn't like it. But there's one thing this guy used to do that neither myself or the other servant did as well as he does. He did amazing with outreach and one-on-one with these kids. He touched them in ways both of us with the amazing lessons couldn't have touched their lives. So what is your calling? Are you just going in to do the service because it's the prestigious thing to do? It's the promotion and service? Are you going in because you really want to impact lives? Are you going in to really serve? And maybe your calling is not in the lessons. Maybe your calling is, in the activities outside or in the Bible study or whatever it is. So be very aware that bottom line, when we're talking about youth service and when we're talking about service, it's all about how you serve people. I remember the first time I met Pope Tewodros here in Canada. I met him when we went for his enthronement. That was our first meeting. And then he came in September to Canada. And because I'm such a lucky person, Pope Tewodros came to visit the school 3 days into the school year. And the first year of me being a principal. Like it couldn't be better than this. Like you need some time when you're a leader to kind of find your way and develop yourself and find. No, with my luck, 3 days in. And the funny part was on Sunday night, before he came to visit the school, I was emceeing Maharagan de Karoza. And so Pope Tewodros was going to see me emceeing Maharagan de Karoza, and you know how that is, right? The 10,000 names that are called. And that day, it was all the churches of Ontario. And Abuna Angelos and I wrote a script, and we did like a skit and everything. So I told my dad, I said, I need you to do something. He goes, what? I said, I need you to tell the Pope that tomorrow when he comes to school, he will see me with my other hat. I'm the principal. And so we were having lunch before Maharagan de Karoza Fund. And I kept on bugging my dad. I'm like, you have to tell him. Like, he doesn't know us well. Like, it's not Pope Shenouda. He's known me since I was born. And God knows, you know, what special people say about you when you're in leadership. And I need him to know this. So finally, my dad brought me by hand and we went to Pope Tawadros as he was sitting having, you know, tea. And he said to him, this Adventity wants me to tell you something. I'm like, great, I've just been insulted, no problem. He said to him, you know, we've had the school for many years, and over the years, we've had great principals. However, recently, we've lost a principal who was there for 5 years. And then another principal who was retired came in for about 5 months, and then he left because he was retired. And then another principal came in, and then another principal came in. So in the space of 4 years, the school had 5 principals. Okay. And then he told the Pope, he goes, the board decided, they had a meeting, and they decided that they would appoint her as principal. And the Pope looked at me and he said, do you have the credentials? And I said, well, I have my principal qualification courses. I have the credentials to teach from kindergarten to grade 12. And in 1 month from now, I will be getting my master's degree in educational leadership from University of Western Ontario. And he goes, well then, no one could say anything. So I looked at the Pope and I said, Your Holiness, I promise you 3 things. As long as I'm in this role, I'll be a servant first, a teacher second, a principal third. A servant means I will see with my heart, I will go out of my way to help. I will make sure that I will know that these kids are mine and I'm to take care of them, regardless what happens. And remember the story, because I'll tell you a comedy story that happened with Maria. She's forever holding it as a grudge. A teacher second means I will always be where my passion is. I want to be a teacher. I never wanted to go into administration. My biggest dream, like I told you at the beginning, was to be a teacher like Theta. So when I'm a teacher, I'll think of all the academic things and all the non-academic things and what a teacher does. And then a principal, that's the leadership part. But if I'm not a servant, I can't be a principal. And he said, well, God bless. And the next day he saw me in my other shoes. The man now knows whenever we go, even when we went with the church, he still introduced us as a school. So we gave honorary secondary school diplomas to the kids that came. It is so important when you go into leadership, when you go into service, to realize the word that you're going into. What is it? Are you a leader or are you a servant? Servant is a big word. So let's move on. And let's go to biblical examples. These guys are hilarious leaders. Let's start with Moses. And maybe I'm biased because Prince of Egypt is taking on my world at the moment. Moses couldn't talk. Moses ran away, hid in the desert, stuttered, thought he had no leadership skills. And yet God kept on telling him. I mean, God came to him in a burning bush and Moses was still arguing with him. God told him to go and that he won't leave him. He says, can I have Aaron as my sidekick? Because I can't talk. Right? But at the end of the day, what did Moses do? He took the people out of slavery and started walking with them, maybe not making it to the promised land because of what he did along the way, not listening to instructions. And that's something that's important as leaders, listening. And yet his leadership was very interesting, right? How many of you stutter? Not stutter like physically stutter, but how many of you stutter in your life? How many of you stutter in your service? How many of you say, no, I'm too shy, I can't talk. No, I can't really do this. I don't like the outreach thing. It's not my thing. I don't want anything. By the way, I'll tell you something about outreach. Being a Nabuna's kid and Nabuna's wife, we are always seen as people who don't need outreach. And our kids, in return, don't need outreach. I mean, they have an Abuna at home. What more outreach can you have? But there was one servant who always outreached my kids. And right before Maria's wedding, that servant came, rang the doorbell, and gave me something for Maria, and I said to her, guess what? I'm going over to Maria's house today, and I'm gonna be putting that as the first thing to enter the house. It was almost, and I looked at her and I said, you outreached her, you were the only servant that outreached her. And today, God is saying, you know what? You've gone out of your way to outreach, and this is kind of something very special. Outreach is always a sour spot. We're all Moseses when it comes to outreach. We don't want to go to houses. We don't want to have time one-on-one with the kids. We're met with resistant messages from parents now. How many of you tried to outreach and then you get like this message and it's like a slap in the face from the parents? I just heard one last week, so I thought, whoa, that's a funny message. I would die for anyone to outreach my kids. So are you a Moses? Are you gonna need a sidekick? Or are you gonna allow God to work through you to part that Red Sea and walk through with God's people? David, I'm just a shepherd boy. All I need to do is just hide among my sheep. And you know, I'm the youngest among my brothers, so no one really notices. Even when the prophet came to choose the king, my father didn't even think about me because I was just a shepherd boy. But the day the giant came out, the day the leadership came out. Why? Because along the way, God prepped him with the bear and the lion. Never underestimate the leadership that God has put in you. Don't say, I'm just a kid. I'm just a young servant. I'm just a shepherd. I don't have a talent. I don't know what to do with these kids. I don't know how to deal with parents. You know what? I'll just do the activities because I don't want to deal with, and I don't want to handle the kids, or I don't want to deal with other servants. Because the minute God wants you to step forward, better be a David. He's preparing you for this. Nehemiah, this guy I like, okay? Because I think this guy is a real example of leader. Leadership is a very lonely place. People who are up there and high in leadership will tell you it is the loneliest place in any organization, whether in service. Look at, Pope Tewodros. Anything that happens to the tiniest person in the church, it's the Pope's fault, right? Anything, someone writes a sentence that it's the Pope's fault. You look at what's happening in the Middle East, right? It's always someone's fault. It's the president's fault. It's the prime minister's fault. Nehemiah decided to build the walls, organized people. And that's something we're going to talk about, the similarities and differences between a leader and a manager. He built the walls. As he's building, what's happening? Were people cheering him on? No. A couple of weeks ago, I did a post on social media and I had a lot of people reacting, but it was about me, but not about me. I said, when you're doing something right, and when you're seeing growth in whatever you're working on, it is the best time and the highest time where people will throw rocks at it and will belittle what you're doing. And that was Nehemiah. He's building the walls. He's brought people. He's encouraging them. He put a strategy in place. Part of leadership is strategy. Part of leadership is bringing the people on into your vision. Part of leadership is actually encouraging them and moving and getting them to believe in your vision. And yet these bozos are walking by and they're making fun of them. And yet he kept on going. As a leader, as a servant, as someone who is working in God's field, you'll be met with a lot of resistance. You'll be tossed at with comments. You will feel like you're burnt out, that you can't go on. And that's something Nehemiah faced. But yet he got up and kept going. and Esther, being International Women's Day, you have to think of a good woman, right? Esther was a queen, but was she a queen in her own land with her own people? No. She was an orphan. She lived with her cousin who was older than her. She was in exile. She is chosen to be a queen after another queen was killed because she did not listen to that same king she ended up marrying. She lived through conspiracies, yet her faith in God and her leadership saved her people. Right? Where are you? What do you stand when you're going into that service? Qualities of Christian leaders. Number one, servant heart, we talked about. Number two, integrity. Integrity is very important when you're a servant. When you're a servant leader, uphold strong moral principles. There is no gray area in what is right and what is wrong. Wednesdays and Fridays, do we fast them? Or are they just extra days, not important? The apostles fast, and if I hear that one more time, as Abuna's wife and Abuna's kid, I'm gonna hurt someone. It is not for Abuna's family, okay? We were not nominated for the apostles fast. Nice try. Don't try it again. Where do you uphold the church teachings? Where do you stand for what is right and what is wrong? Is it okay for me to do this on Friday and Saturday and Sunday and do this the rest of the week? Is it okay for me to, go to certain places or watch certain things? I will tell you something, I'm mean, okay? But Instagram and Facebook and Snap and all this stuff, we talk about how bad they are for teenagers, but some of us as adults, we're worse than teenagers. Some of the pictures we post, some of the things we say, and it's like, seriously? Have you ever met someone who posts certain things and then you meet them in person and they're saying exactly the opposite of what they posted? Yeah, I've had this experience multiple times. Integrity is very important. Visionary thinking. A leader does not look under their feet. I don't like talking about this guy, but I share his genes. Unfortunately, we come from the same gene pool. And the funny part, and I was on the phone with someone who doesn't know me, but he kept on using my dad's name in the middle of the sentence, like every other word. Abunangelos would say, Abunangelos would, and I got really sick of it halfway through. And if you know me, I never tell people who I am because it really, like, I don't want people to, I will tell him Abuna in front of people I don't know. But I got so sick of this guy talking to me. And I said, by the way, he's been my dad for 47 years. His name is on my birth certificate. Could we please move on and tell me what you want from me? Because I have a school to run. And that's like, well, he got shocked at what I'm saying. But if this young priest who came to this continent 37 years ago looked under his feet and said, this is enough, you would not have the 9 churches in Mississauga, the church in Brampton, the church in Milton, the church in Oakville, the church in Hamilton, the church in St. Catharines, St. George's Church in Surrey, BC, that was burnt down a few years ago. You would not have these churches. You would not have 2 daycare centers, a school. You would not have 2 not-for-profit buildings. You would not have the Valley of the Mother of God. You would not. The day we were about to put an offer on the Church of St. Mina and Pope Kyrillos, he made the announcement in the morning and he said, I need $1 million by the end of the day today so that I could put the down payment. Could you guys say no to Pope Kyrillos and Marimina? And he said, I'm staying in the church. I'm not leaving the church until I get the $1 million. And he actually sat in the church, like physically sat in the church. Funny thing was, God always provides a lot more than we ask for. And he did get the $1 million and the first payment. But the next day, one of the seniors, his name was Uncle Hanna, he waited for him at the door of the church. He goes, Abuna, how much did you collect yesterday? Don't tell me how much you collected. Because you got the $1 million and more, I know. Vision. When you go into your service, are you serving that one kid? Are you serving that group of kids? Are you serving and impacting an entire generation? What is your vision as a leader? And a Christian leader really has visionary thinking. Effective communication. When I say communication, your mind goes to the talking part, right? But guess what? Communication is a two-way street. It is talking and it's also listening. And not only to verbal, but to non-verbal. You're about to start serving some of the most non-verbal, verbal human beings on the planet. Okay? Meaning, what comes out and is blurted out of their mouth is almost 80% opposite of what is actually going on inside their mouth, inside their hearts and their minds. Okay? So, communication is very key. Reading, you know how you say, read the room? Read the room. Watch the friendships. Watch the dynamics. Understand what's really happening. I've been dealing with an interesting situation. A family who had lost the father when the kids were very young, almost toddlers. They don't really remember the dad. These kids now are in high school. Things were fine, no problem. Or so the mom thought. Until this year, someone in their class lost their dad. And the first person that they called, or the first people they called after losing their dad, was these guys. So I called the mom in because I will tell you, the reactions and the behavior and the outbursts and the non-verbal that I'm talking to you guys about is crazy. And I told the mom, I said, I really think they need like proper help. They need counseling of some sort. And she's like, no, they're fine. I said, no, they're fine. But do you want to tell me something that happened different? I know that dad is gone. Yeah, he died when they were very young. But I don't know why this year when their friend lost their dad and called them, they kept on saying, we don't know how it is to have a dad. Hello? Maybe that's why we're having crazy outbursts. I said, yeah, they don't know how it feels to have a dad. And there's someone else who had a dad and lost it. And the first person they ran to was the person that lost their dad earlier. The non-spoken. Listen and read the room. Understand what is happening. And really get to know your kids. This is something I will tell you over and over again. Get to know those whom you serve. It is not a Friday night thing. It is not the lesson and I run out after. Get to really, really know them. Okay. And finally, commitment to growth. Having that growth in your life spiritually is very, very important as you become a Christian leader in ministry. All right, my favorite slide in this presentation. Difference between a leader and a manager. Now, I know you already had the management piece. I usually like to start with leadership, but I let the new guys start, so it's okay. I'll forget. But a manager organizes and coordinates work, whereas a leader inspires and motivates people. Okay? When a leader believes in their vision, people get excited and they will do what they're telling them and not telling them to do just because they're inspired by them. They set vision and direction, whereas a manager plans and executes the process. They put the 1, 2, 3, and it doesn't really matter if, Sarah falls off the wagon as we're walking, or Margot, drops off the project, the steps are going to have to be done. Whereas a leader, because they care more about the vision and the direction things are going, they will actually stop and check on Sarah and check on Margot and check on Verena and make sure they're involved in this and so on. The key question for a leader, where are we going? The manager, how are we going to get there? Tell me, do a budget. Tell me that trip you're going to on youth group, the crazy, okay, here's an example. June 6th, Egypt and Brazil are playing a pre-World Cup game in Cleveland, Ohio. Christina's laughing because we're trying to find a way to buy 80 tickets. Okay, we only have 16, but we're gonna get 80 tickets. We rented 2 buses. We don't have the tickets yet, but we're gonna get them, okay? This is the crazy me, okay? I know the kids are gonna go. I know they're gonna be excited about something like this. I've decided I'm gonna do it as a school trip and have fun, although it's in the middle of exam week. It's fine. We're gonna find a way to study. We're not gonna stay overnight. Whereas my accountant calls us this morning and tells me, who exactly is gonna be paying for the, and I'm like, yeah, we're collecting the money from the kids. Yeah, I know. Are the teachers gonna pay for, yeah, they'll pay parts of their tickets. And don't worry, did you get the tickets? I only have 16 out of 80. Well, I'll get them. Leadership versus manager, right? And trust me, if I have to go to Cleveland to buy the tickets physically and come back, I will, all right? Approach to people, a leader builds relationships and influences other, while the manager assigns roles. It's all about leadership, it's all about people, in leadership, whereas the manager, it's more of the system that's going. Decision-making, the leader encourages creativity and innovation, and the manager focuses on structure and efficiency. You know, is this really gonna work? Is it gonna be worth it for us? Is it gonna make money? Is it gonna not make money? Is it gonna take us somewhere else? Whereas, no, okay, let's think of creative. You know, PCC is known for the crazy musicals that happen every year. Do you wanna know how it started? Christmas concert. I was asked, I was VP, and there was another VP in the school at the time. And that VP wasn't doing a lot. So I was asked by the board to back down and not do anything for the Christmas concert. So I backed down. And the Christmas concert was 14 minutes long. And all the board members were sitting next to me, and I was like, you told me not to do anything, so I didn't. They're like, what's this? I said, do I have permission to buy a Disney play and do it in May? Yes. I didn't know that Disney was selling plays. I didn't know how much it was. I didn't know where it was going to happen. Nothing. This was December. In May, we had Beauty and the Beast, Living Arts Center. Biggest production of our lifetime, because guess what? The Beast transformed into the Prince for the first time on stage. We didn't have time or money to try it beforehand. It worked. No one knew that, right? So that craziness comes with leadership, I guess, but encourages creativity. You know, let's think out of the box. You won't find a leader sitting down and not thinking of another crazy idea. And the next time you sit with a leader versus a manager, you'll notice the difference. The driving force is inspiration and influence. And for a manager, it's a system and organization. One of the things I'll tell you, one of the biggest things I think is a success story for me and my experience, we've gone to Egypt many times with the school. We started off in the Egyptian media as the school that belongs to the Egyptian community, the Egyptian school in Canada. And then over the years, we have gained that status to be Flippertier School in Canada. Last February, when I was last month when I was in Egypt, all the documents that I signed, all the newspaper articles that were written, it was explicitly written Flippertier Christian College. I came back and I said, I don't care what I did and how I signed and what I did for the kids and special scholarships I got for our online students in the program. The fact that the word Flippertier and the word Christian was written, to me, goes above and beyond anything else that happened. God working in this. Measurement of success, growth, inspiration, long-term impact, whereas efficient results and goal completion. Youth ministry example, you inspire youth to grow in faith and leadership, and while a manager will organize youth events and schedule. I really believe in kids. I really believe I could do a lot with teenagers than I can with adults. Margot, I sat on a WhatsApp group with parents when we were on the mission trip with the school, and the parents kept on saying, could you please take us? I'm like, I'll take your kids. I can't have you. I won't deal with you, right? Because I really believe I could change a lot of things once I invest in those young people. When I show them I believe in them. When I show them I trust them. I will tell you something though. And this is something after many years of leadership, maybe you're the first cohort that's hearing this. Because you invest so much in people, and because it's all about impact and influence and inspiration and, you know, the big ideas and so on. And like I said at the beginning, I always make sure before I tell someone to do it, I do it myself. When people don't, or when people stop doing, or when people don't even talk and they just kind of exist in your life and your leadership role, you will get a lot more frustrated and you will tend to move on and just pick whoever's working with you. You'll find that you'll work with a smaller group and make big influence, then drag a whole mountain of people behind you not doing anything. But that doesn't happen until you really have invested and invested and invested, and then nothing changes. You know what? It's up to you. Stay, no problem. But I'm moving forward. It's really up to you. And this is very important when you're thinking of leadership. All right, we're gonna go to Maxwell, and we're gonna go to 5 levels of leadership. Level number 1, position. I'm a youth group servant, so everyone's gonna walk and talk and live behind me because I'm in the position. It's the lowest one. Position leadership comes from the title or position people follow because organizational hierarchy. You're the youth servant in the class, and I have no option but to respect you because you're the servant that they got us stuck with. So guess what? We'll just sit in your class because that's where I have to be on Friday nights. Your limitations, it's the lowest level. Influence doesn't extend beyond that job description of a youth servant. Youth servant, period, full stop. You don't influence, you don't care. No, they don't care about you. You just exist. Growth opportunity, they use this as a starting point, focus on building relationships and caring respect beyond the title, okay? Christina said something and I didn't pick on at the beginning, but I'll pick on now. There's one servant that impacted her life. She had a lot of servants. You said that, right? But there's the one servant. Rest, they all existed because of their position. This is the lowest. If you go into a kindergarten class, you'll know who's in charge in there. Last year, I was traveling, and I brought in my little friend, Alex. Alex was last year the youngest child in the school. He was only 3 years old when I was going away. And I said, Alex, I'll be going away tomorrow, and I want you to be in charge of school. And I was literally joking. He was in pre-JK. And Alex says, I'll be a principal because you're going away. I said, yeah, because I'm going away, you'll be the C does not exist until now. He's almost done JK. So C doesn't exist in the alphabet. I said, I want you to wear a suit. I was literally completely joking with Alex. 3-year-old Alex, okay? I said, I need you to wear a suit and your bow tie. And I want you to come to my office and I want you to be in charge of the school. Guess what happened the next day when I wasn't there? Alex refused to dress casually. It was casual Friday. He put on his full gray suit with his bow tie because he was the principal. And Alex came and sat at my desk, got his teacher to make him a name tag. They removed mine. They put his up. Okay? I wasn't offended. He called me from my phone and told me everything is fine. I said, thank you, Alex. Stayed there for about an hour and then went back to being Alex, the 3-year-old. You could walk into a pre-JK class and you'll know who's in charge, right? By position. That's the first, that's the Alex. Alex is 3, he's now 4, still doesn't have the C. He's still in charge of JK right now. He's been promoted from pre-JK to JK. Level 2, permission. It's built on relationship. Leadership here, based on trust, respect, genuine connection, People give you permission to lead them. Key benefits: creates positive work environment, increases team morale and engagement, builds foundation for greater influence. In the youth ministry, it's essential for youth work. Young people follow leaders they trust and feel cared for by. I'll take you as a history major. Go back to Egypt in 2011 versus June 30th, 2013, right? It's when the second revolution started. I remember in May, when they had the Tamarud, the rebel paper printed and everyone was signing it, I signed it. So proud of myself. I have a picture of that. One of the bishops was visiting from Egypt. And I'll tell you, when we attended Pope Tawadros' enthronement, we actually had to change our tickets to come back really fast because we saw what happened when the Muslim Brotherhood actually canceled the Egyptian the Egyptian law, basically. They revoked it. We saw the streets of Egypt turn into garabayas and all kinds of things and fireworks, and then you had people crying on the street. Like it was crazy. So we actually changed our tickets to come back fast. I remember that bishop, and I won't say who it is. He is a metropolitan now, and him and I always have really good discussions because he knows I'm a history teacher. I said to him, "Your Grace, what do you think is going to happen?" And I remember Mbamina was there, and he said, "Well, Egypt is going as a ship in the water. There is a huge glacier in front of it. It will either go straight in, or in the last minute, God's hand will move it away." And Mbamina said, "Egypt needs someone from the army to run this country." And we all kind of dismissed it at that time, but the Metropolitan looked and he said, "Sayyidina, there is a guy, no one knows much about him, except we're not even sure if he is Brotherhood or not, because he is currently the Minister of Defense. No one really knows him. The only thing that I know is that at one point they were selling pieces of land to army generals at very low prices because of their position, and he refused to buy it at the low price and paid the full price because this was going for the country." That's all we know about this guy. Whether he's Brotherhood or not, we don't know. On June 30th, what happened? All of us here and there went on the street, and July 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, this person that no one knew about anything stood up in front of the world and changed the course of that ship. He was actually followed because permission was given to him by the people. This is the current president. What's happening in the Middle East now, you'll find on social media, a lot of people are saying, keep him until we figure out what's happening, because he's the only one that's making sense right now. Whether we agree or disagree with him or whatever, reality is he was given permission by the people to do what he did, and because of what he did, the land was saved. I'm working hard. We talked about you only once. No, there's about 1, 2, 3, 4,
Ayman,
5 online.
5 online.
Yeah, I'm going straight because we're leaving early. And you were interrupting us.
Yes, of course.
Oh, no, you're interrupting us.
You're all good?
They're all alive.
Yes. Can we try maybe to do the setup where we go back to tables as we used to? That's one, and
We said that when we
Right.
came. And next time, it's gonna have to be tables, because next time they're doing workshop cases.
and people online, they have to be online.
We have a few people now online.
I just want to highlight, obviously you're here in person, but you can pass on this and I'll put it in the group. If you have not signed up for online, you must be present in person. If you have not signed up online, you must be in person. That's very important, okay? And we're almost done. But it's very important because the engagement that happened in class is different, obviously, than when you're online. Even your focus online is different than when you are in person. So for people online, please do make it in class. Put the effort to be here. And if you really cannot, and it's an extenuating circumstance, then I can understand. Other than that, you must be in here to meet the requirements of the program. That's very important. And we'll look into this when we come to evaluate the students. We have assessment and we have evaluation. As much as this is an enjoyable course to be part of in a program, but on our end, we want to make sure that you meet the requirements as well. So it's quite important. And Ayman, if you don't mind, just reiterate that and put it on the group, please. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for the interruption.
That was your commercial break.
That's a commercial break.
All right, level 3 is production. Someone becomes a leader because they are the ones that do everything. Have you seen that person who's just a busybody running around doing everything yeah, you become that because of this. Leadership through this is they follow you because you're proven that you have an ability to deliver. It's the youth group, middle school service, Sunday school, workplace. There's a trip. Who can come? It's the same exact servants, correct? Even at work, who can help with this project? It's the same exact people. And I will tell you, even when you assign new people to the job, somehow miraculously they disappear, and it's the 1 or 2 people that will do everything. So they become leaders because of the way they actually produce. You track them, they build credibility. Their track record speaks for itself, and team respects them as leaders because they solve problems, they do the stuff, they're there every Friday, they're there every activity, they're there for Bible study, they're there and they burn out and they still keep going because they're there. And then for the ministry impact, it's effective programming, growing attendance, life transformation, results create momentum and attract more followers. I'll take something that was said earlier when you went back on Friday night. You were with my own Sunday school servants. There's a lot of new faces, right? But who's still there and who's still holding the fort? It's the old guys, right? Not that they're old, we're all young, okay? If you go to Sunday school, two very young people who are inseparable are still running the kids convention. Who are they? Soda and Tasoni. Okay, they're very young. They're just starting their lives, but if they disappear, what's going to happen? Production, right? Hopefully, we will carry on the fort and we'll move forward. Level 4 is people development, leading through reproduction. So this is a shift. Now, I'm a leader for many years. I'm looking around and I'm seeing who could be taking responsibility for other things I'm doing. And when you're in leadership, you're not really in leadership until you start developing other people to lead. Okay, and so the multiplication of effects. Your influence multiplies through others. More leaders mean greater organizational impact. And it could be someone young, it could be someone old, it could be someone experienced, it could be someone inexperienced. Watch for those people, okay? Watch as you get into youth ministry for those kids in class who could help you in that part that you hate called outreach. Watch for the people who are, interested in community service. Watch, because you'll develop them, and what's going to happen is they'll sit in this chair in a few years from now, and they'll say, what? I'm now serving with my servants, okay? And in youth ministry, they identify and develop youth leaders, mentors, emerging leaders, and they create leadership pipeline for sustained ministry growth. Things will not disappear, okay? They will change a little bit, But look at our church history. After Pope Shenouda passed away, some of you are very, very young, but I know we all thought, who's next? How? Pope Shenouda was the Pope for 40 years. He was a Pope before most of us were born. And yet, who came next? The tall guy with the glasses. You know that story? Pope Shenouda was in Upper Egypt, right? A couple of years before he passed away. And one of the Saidis commented about Pope Shenouda in a funny way. And Pope Shenouda jokingly said something about, you never know. Maybe the next Pope will be tall and wears glasses. And it came out after he was tall. He's very tall. You're like an ant beside him. And he wears glasses. This is youth ministry, reproducing, moving forward. Look at even the kids that you serve. Who can really be a leader in your class? Who could really impact the change? Who could really make a difference? Who can you help move things on with? I will tell you this, when Christina was still a kid at PCC, not too long ago, she lives there still. We're trying to get rid of her. She comes back like an old coin, like it doesn't go away. I attended, it was during COVID, and I attended a Zoom with two of the Egyptian ministers with a group of people in the States, and they were doing they were raising awareness on the initiative called Haya Karima, Decent Life, that the government was bringing in as an NGO. They were trying to lift the living conditions of 54 million Egyptians living below poverty lines. And it was an idea. I actually attended the inauguration of this idea. It was presented in front of the president in 2018 by a couple of people in first or second year university. I was at that conference when this was presented. And then I attended the talk, and in the talk, I was very jealous. And I hung up the call and I said, this is in the States. It can't be in the States. Like Canada and the States are separate countries. Middle East, Canada and the States are one. And the only thing in Canada that's important is Toronto. No, I'm from Mississauga, not Toronto. I've taught them that. And so I remember going to Abba Braham charity, and I spoke to Abuna and I spoke to the treasurer, and I said, I will call the ministers and see if we could do something for Haya Karima through Abba Braham here. And they said, go ahead, we'd love that. I spoke to them and they said, no problem. All I had is a bunch of teenagers. Okay, brought them. It was about 6 or 7 of them. And I explained the story. And I said, we have 3 weeks. It's right before Christmas. Let's see what we could collect. So we randomly chose a number. They chose $50,000. They didn't calculate how much it would be in Egyptian pounds, nothing. It was just like, let's do that. And we did everything from pie toss to inflatable snowman to, I don't even remember what happened to me because I was on the receiving end of a lot of things. And I remember we collected the 50,000 and I brought them and I said, guys, we got the 50,000. And one of them, Farid, looked at me and goes, why can't we get 80? I'm like, I'm not going to get another pie in the face. I'm not going to wear an inflatable snowman. I'm not going to do it like there's what else, and I said, why 80? He goes, because if we do 80,000, we would be giving 1 million Egyptian pounds. I said, okay, start doing your thing. I don't know what else to do. What they don't know is I called one person. But they actually did. They called people, they tried to raise more money. I called one person and I said, look, I know you've already helped us, and he goes, how much do you need? I said, we need 20,000. He goes, okay. I said, okay, what? He goes, okay, I'll drop off the check, but don't tell anyone it's from me. I said, okay. And I remember going on the Zoom link with the minister, and I said to them, I said, I'm going to say something. I don't want you to react because all this is being recorded. It's going to be used on Egyptian television. And I said, Your Excellency, what they don't know is they just raised 1 million Egyptian pounds in 3 weeks and raised awareness to the world about this new NGO. Mentorship, believing in those young people that you serve. I'm gonna talk about the last level and then we're gonna give you a 5-minute break. Okay, I lied, I'll give you a 5-minute break, but let me talk about this last one. Pinnacle, this is leadership through respect, leadership legacy. Highest level, people follow because of who you are and what you represent. Your reputation precedes you. Characteristics transcends position and organization, creates movement, not just programs, leaves lasting impact on people and communities. And the challenge there is few reach this level, requires lifetime of growth through previous levels, focus on legacy over achievement. Hazel McCallion. Till this day, how many, we got 2 other mayors? Nothing like Hazel, right? Hazel McCallion, last time I met her before she passed was in May, and she was already diagnosed with cancer in her last months. And she was there attending an event. Okay, don't mess with her. Pope Shenouda. Pope Tewodros is doing a phenomenal job. But when Pope Tewodros speaks about anything, what does he always do? He brings it back to Pope Shenouda started this. Pope Shenouda did this, right? A legacy. A legacy. It is no longer just a position or an organization. It is a legacy that will live forever. Trudeau stood up in Hazel McCallion's funeral and said, "I don't think I would have ever lasted in politics if she was my boss." And he was the prime minister of the country at that time, right? Legacy. And this is the pinnacle. This is something, not too many people will reach it, but is that one servant that lasts a lifetime with you, even after they go and move and pass away. I just to wrap up this section, and I'll give you a 5-minute stretch because I see a coffee break back there. We lost a very good servant that we got to know when we were in Seattle, Washington. I left Seattle, Washington. We were there for 13 months. His name was Uncle Adel Andros. And we stayed with them for 13 months, and then we were moved by Pope Shenouda to come here. By the way, Abuna Gedos and us as a family, we were only supposed to be here for 3 months. 37 years later and 2 popes later, and we're still here. It was supposed to be a transit. We were going back to Egypt. And so Uncle Adel passed away this past fall. And it was very interesting. What I remembered about him, and I wrote, people I don't even know wrote the same thing, and they got to know him much later on in life than when I was a kid. When Abuna John Butros, Uncle Hanna, passed away, all of us wrote the same exact thing, a legacy. One was a lay servant that served everybody, and one was a priest and a deacon in the church that we grew up in. Are you there? I don't know if any of us will get there, inshallah, but this is the highest level. 5 minutes, grab your coffees and come back, and then we're gonna go back. And we're gonna talk about different types of leadership styles. Transformational leadership in youth ministry. So this is the inspiring vision. They empower youth through compelling vision and personal development, fosters innovation and very creative in ministry. This is the servant that goes in and just really, impacts everyone. There's a real change. People follow because there's a change happening. They transform everyone around them. They get everyone involved. Key benefit is youth start taking care and taking ownership of their own faith. This is the servant who comes up with a plan for Great Lent. All right, guys, we'll go to Mass together once a week. We'll go to the 6 to 8 Mass. I'll grab Tim Hortons with all of you and drop you off at school. So think about it. It's up to you. I'll be there in Mass that day. or all Holy Week, I'm attending this Bascha at this church at this time. If you guys come, I'll save the whole pew. He's or she's already gotten the kids to think, got them excited about something. They've taken ownership because they want to come and they want to attend Bascha, or they want to come and they want to attend Mass. Whether it's for the Tim Hortons after or not, we don't know, but that's besides the point. Spiritual growth focuses on transformation, not just information. Is there real growth in their life? Is it only Holy Week and Great Lent? Or do I do like okay guys, I have taken an appointment to confess with Abuna on this day at this time. And why don't we arrange that we all go for confession together? Okay, taking that ownership, encouraging them, making sure that they focus on an actual change and encourages deep spiritual formation and authentic faith. And the practical example is empower youth to identify community needs and lead service projects and so on. Be careful not to be a fake transformational leader. With the age and time we live in, everyone thinks they're George Basilius, the apologetics era, or they're all into the Taz, or Tasbih. Yeah, some things really bother me, okay? Why are you doing this? Okay? Don't do it for the show, do it for your own spiritual transformation and the transformation of others. Servant leadership is another one here, others first. So everyone else has to be okay, everyone else has to be good, and then my needs are met. They emphasize on humility, empathy, and serving collective needs of the community. Build trust there. There's fostering of trust, collaborative among youth, supports individuals and communities' well-being through genuine care. This is the servant that will go out of their way to make sure that they take care of those people who are not taken care of. Or as I mentioned at the beginning, when I heard that kid talk about JP, the two kids that were kicked out, JP did not stay in the class. He went out with them. Okay? And had the lesson with them. They care more about that. Holistic care. They care more about the spiritual, the emotional, the social needs. They provide the mentorship. They provide the education needed, emotional support, spiritual guidance. And then the culture of the service here encourages selflessness and empathy. Models Christ-like servanthood, creates culture where you serve one another. Pope Kyrillos was one of those. Okay? Very spiritual man, very much cared about the needs of others. The serving part, Abba Bar'al, the friend of the poor, right? The transformation one, I would say Archdeacon Habib Girgis, right? He's a guy that came at a time and said, we need to care for the youngest. We need to have Sunday school movement in the Coptic Church. The democratic leadership, this one I don't like. Okay, and I don't think they really exist for real. Okay, because when you are a leader, there's going to be times where you're going to have to make decisions. A democratic leader is someone who has that shared decision. We have a servants meeting. I'm the coordinator. Okay, everybody, let's discuss together how many people we're going to visit this month. Verena, 5. Good. Margot, 2. That's good too. So and so, 4. And then, okay, let's vote together. What ends up happening if you're not careful with this democratic leader is nothing actually gets done. Because we take so much time and like, okay, I have this idea. Okay, are we all agreeing? No, we're not agreeing. Why are we not agreeing? Let's discuss. And then what ends up happening is we lose the service. The good thing about it is it engages people. Okay, the cycle leader is the one that engages others, make sure they're involved. They think they take ownership of the service. Be careful with this one. Okay, youth ministry application. It's perfect for planning events, but if you're gonna do this, I will tell you, go in as a leader and be also prepared yourself. Okay, so if I'm doing an event, if let's say I don't know, the Saint Athanasius revival coming up, the Virgin Mary revival coming up, or the Abuna Dawood Lamay conference. Okay, how many years we've done Abuna Dawood? 1,000,000 years. I think this is the 17th year or 18th year of Abuna Dawood. Reality is, how many topics could we have? 1, 2, question and answer with Abuna. I know that this will work at this time, this won't work at this time. I better be very well prepared if I'm going in to ask people's opinion, to see the pros and cons. Okay? Yes, it engages people, but if you're not prepared as a leader to go in and engage them, but also kind of work through it, then things will fall apart. Okay. Okay. Situation leadership. This is the leader that pops up, you know, something happens and all of a sudden, this person just pops up out of nowhere and becomes a leader because of the situation we're in. Okay? You know, it is a flexible leadership. It adapts leadership style based on the needs. So we have a class, there's a snowstorm, and there's a whole grade, and not a single servant can come because they all live far. And there's one servant that says, don't worry, Margot, you take all the girls, Tekla, you take all the boys. We're gonna go down to youth lounge when we used to have one. We're gonna talk there. We're gonna do this. It's a situational thing. It's adaptive. It adjusts the approach based on your youth maturity. So and the ministry maturity. So it's not gonna always work. Okay. But it is good to have those people in the service. It's always good to have someone like this, but they also have to be flexible. Okay. If you're not a flexible personality, then you'll be in a lot of trouble when it comes to the situational. Different youth needs different approaches. New believers need more directions, like new kids coming in. We have the new integration when we talk about our new friends from Upper Egypt that have joined the church. Their needs are different than our kids' needs here. How do we integrate them? What's the situation there? How could we work with them, and so on? There's the autocratic leader, and that's a leader that makes the decision with little bit of input. This is the person that makes you feel like more of a manager than a leader, and it's okay to have those sometimes. We're on a youth group trip. There was a servant who was in charge of bringing the food, and they decided, this is a real story, they decided to leave fish and rice in the bottom of the bus for 3 days. Yes, it was cold, but it was fish and rice. And on the 3rd day, they wanted to bring it out and feed the kids. The decision was, no, you're not. We're throwing this out. We're buying Mr. Sub and everyone's going to eat it. No, but I don't want to throw it out. Haram. Well, then you could eat it. Okay. So there's going to be that time where autocratic leadership will come in and no, we're not going to do this. Charismatic leadership is a people focused, and these are the people that, you know what, they walk into the room and just people run to them. Okay. And they don't have to be loud. Okay. Amba Angelos is a charismatic guy, whether it's his accent or, you know, the fact that he's knighted by the queen, or he prayed in Harry and Meghan's wedding. I don't know what it is. He's been a cool guy since I was a kid. Okay. And then there's also Abuna Anthony Masih, Abuna Anthony Murad, Abuna Anthony Paul, right? They get up and they talk and they so there's those charismatic. It's not usually that, but it's people focused. People really get attracted to their styles. Laissez-faire leader. This is the relaxed person. Okay, heads off approach with high trust. Okay, we have a youth group trip coming up. Margot, you're gonna do this. Karen, you're gonna do this. Verena, you're gonna do this. Okay, I'll see you guys on the bus 3 weeks from now. We come to the bus. Margot, did you do anything? No. Verena? No. Karen? Well, like part. where's leadership? They trust, but the trust doesn't work, okay? All right, developing leadership skills. Remember my question at the beginning, are leaders born or made? If you would have asked me this a few years back, I'll say leaders are born. After 14 years of principalship, I'll tell you it's a combination. My own personal leadership story is very funny. You know when you get into things by accident? So I started actually working at PCC when I wasn't supposed to work at PCC. I said I'll work there for 1 year to, you know, give God the first year of my work, and I'll be out of there in no time. 21 years later, I'm still there, okay? And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of other crazy stuff in the same boat. We go in for 1 year, we don't leave. Here's the funny part. Reason I wasn't supposed to work there is because my dad said, apply anywhere in Mississauga or anywhere in Toronto for any Christian school. Don't apply to PCC so people don't say you got the position because of who you are. So I applied. And I actually got 2 interviews. And the 2 interviews are with 2 competitive schools. One of them actually is closing this year, sadly enough, and a lot of their students are coming over. And the other one was a school I went to when I was a little kid. I was in elementary school there. And the reason my dad found out was because people were going to shop around for schools, and the principal of the school I graduated from in elementary was telling everyone, even Father Angelos' daughter is not applying to their school, so must not be doing well. She's applying to a school here. So he got Mrs. Delano, who was the principal at the time, to call me and offer me a position. My teachables were grade 7 to 12. I'm a history teacher and a religion teacher. You know what position they had for me? SK. Do you know who was in SK? John Youssef and Anthony Youssef, okay? Between Anthony and John, I was dealing with boogers and untied shoelaces for 90% of the day and crying nonstop. Anthony Youssef did not stop crying the entire day. The problem was I was pregnant with Sophia. So a couple of months in, I came to Mrs. Delano and I said, I don't think I could really continue because with the belly getting bigger, I'm not able to bend down to tie shoelaces and wipe Anthony's tears for the rest of the day. So I left for a few months and I came back as a grade 3 teacher. So still very far from where I was. My grade 3 students was Michael Nachda. Okay, he is now a dentist. And no, I'm not old. They just get old. So I started teaching, and Mrs. Delano was the first person to actually see something in me. Maybe because of the culture of our community, maybe because of always, you know, everything was by accident. I got into Adat Khuddam by accident. So I started serving by accident because Uncle Bahet gave us a test and I got the highest mark. Like, so you know what? I must not be a leader. And all I wanted to be was a teacher. Mrs. Delano's back had a huge issue right before Christmas concert. And the next person in line had to go overseas because their mom was dying. And the Christmas concert was going to happen. Mrs. Delano picked up the phone and said, you're in charge of the Christmas concert. We are here in this hall. And I had to run the Christmas concert. By the end of that year, of my first year, I started getting entrusted with small tasks. Along with it, I studied and I learned and I got all my credentials up to date and so on. So, are leaders made or born? There's always a piece in you that's a leader, okay? But sometimes we put it down. Sometimes situations push us out. Sometimes people see in us leadership. But with that, yes, I do have, unfortunately, my father's genes, and you don't want us in the same room when we're arguing over something. Margot was there before. Did you enjoy it? No? In the summer, a few summers ago, when we were working on the, you know, what we were doing? Yeah. You don't want us in the same room and we disagree on something. It's a very bad thing. And Bamina got stuck here last week in the middle of the two of us, and he actually ended up getting up and going to another table. We were arguing over something and he got up. But reality is, it's a mix. Even if you're a leader, if you do not grow in leadership, if you do not learn, if you do not teach yourself, if you do not develop yourself and your leadership skills, then it's kind of hopeless. So number one, self-reflection. It is extremely important. A few weeks ago, I asked my office team to sit down over March break and come up with a proper job description of what they're doing and how they're going to develop themselves. And about 4 of them looked at me and said, "Are you being serious or are you just saying that?" And I said, no, I already did it. I reflected. I now know what I need to do. I know areas of growth, and I'm asking you to do it. Oh, we thought you were joking. No, I'm not joking. Part of leadership is to self-reflect. Write down what you're doing, write down how you're going to develop, write down what you want to do, and then come up with a plan. Number 2, seek guidance. You're not leadership, you're alone anyways. Service, you send them out 2 by 2. So you're not alone. And if you have your co-servant, you have your coordinator for the grade, you have the general coordinator, and you have the abunas, and you have your father of confession. Seek guidance. You are not a one-man show. Peter, when he looked at Jesus, he walked on water. When he looked at the water, he went down under. And when you are in that youth ministry, you're going to feel like you're up there. I'm telling you, the first few weeks are euphoria. I'm now a youth servant. I don't have to deal with these kids anymore. I now deal with the older ones. I come Friday night, I don't have to waste my Saturday and my Sunday anymore. And then you go into that class the first day and you're gonna get so hit on your head. Don't even look at your practicum now. They're still not sure who you are. Wait until they get to know you, okay? And then it becomes a reality. Number 3, practice servant leadership. Embrace the principles of serving, okay? Washing of the feet. I've read somewhere once, an evangelical writer said, the problem with the Protestant church is they moved away from the altar and from washing of the feet and went to the pulpit. You could have the best Sunday school lessons on the planet. You could prepare for 2 weeks. If you attended my prep to serve, when I used to do prep to serve many years ago, the hook, the took, the book, the look, remember those? Yeah, you could do them. Great. But if you do not embrace your servant leadership in you, you are a what? A servant. And what did your master do to show you? He sat on that floor, he wrapped that towel and washed their filthy feet. Embrace that. And finally, continue learning. Those spiritual days, those sermons, whatever it is, keep learning, keep reading, keep following what you need to follow, keep your spiritual life alive in order for you to develop. Now, I've said it to you over and over again through this talk. Leadership is a lonely place, very lonely place. Youth ministry is part of that. There's going to be times where you're going to feel very frustrated. When you're that one servant that's always there for every activity or always trying to plan things with Abuna or always there trying to do the trips or, and then everyone around you kind of frizzles away. There's going to be a challenge there. Now, recognize the call. You're there. You've chosen to come to YMCP. You've sat with your father profession, you got that signature on the form, right? They still get you to sign? No? They just bring you in? All right, they brought you in. You sat through all these courses. You've come on that Friday, Saturday with George Basilius. You got your apologetics dose. You sat through Tamer Camel and his talks about curriculum. And then you got stuck with me, the boring one on leadership. And you did management. And then you also did counseling with Abuna and Abuna. And it's very funny because you spend what, 2 days with Abuna, and you guys all think that you're the next counselor. I've heard it on a call once before, but Abuna, I've studied that counseling course that you get. Abuna studied for years to be counselors. You study 2 days. What is it really? It's your call. Is it on your heart to serve these people? Is it on your heart to come on that Friday night and work with those teenagers who are trying to figure out life in a time of craziness? Is it your calling to talk to kids and work with them and get them to realize what their dreams and what their calling and who they are in Christ is, while they're being overly loved by parents who are trying to fulfill their own dreams and their kids? You know, Mama was not able to get into dentistry because her grades weren't high enough, but you know, this kid will be a dentist. I hate dentistry. I'm an engineer. No, you're gonna be a dentist. I see that over and over and over again. And my favorite is when they go to Abuna. You know, the one Abuna, the old guy that sits in the back room, and I get a call, you know, someone here, my best friend. As soon as he says my best friend, I want to see a moving train and hug it. My best friend is here and they want to be an engineer. That's great. What's their grades in mathematics? Not very good. Well, they can't be an engineer if they're failing math, right? But that's true. So is it your calling to work with these kids, to tell them and to believe in them and to love them and to serve them? Or is it your calling to come and scream and say, I'm a youth servant? Which one is it? Number 2, embrace vulnerability. Acknowledge that you have a personal weakness. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I apologize when I mess up. I had to apologize to a kid last week, and I didn't like it. Okay? I didn't like it because I had to apologize to kind of get the thing going, although she did not say the full truth. So I made sure I said, I'm apologizing for this part. We're not perfect. Although if you walk into my office, there's a big picture that says Mrs. Wassky's always right. 99%. I'll take that. Don't look at me like that, Karen. You know I was right. But acknowledge that you are human. Acknowledge that you're going to get tired. Acknowledge that you're going to burn out. Acknowledge that you need a break sometimes. Acknowledge that you might not be fitting in with a certain group of kids for whatever reason. It does not reflect that you're a failure, but we all have areas that we need to work on. Okay. Number 3, cultivate resilience. Hard one. Very hard one. Because when you're in serving or when you pour your heart in something and you do so much in it, and everyone around you is saying, oh, good, that's really nice. And then there's that one person who says, that whole thing was kind of a pointless activity. I don't even know why you did it. Have you gone through this before? Yeah. Yeah. Resilience. What doesn't break you? Makes you stronger. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be hurt. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be upset. It doesn't mean that you're not going to feel a bit of like sorry for yourself. And sometimes I'll be doing something and I'll be excited about it, but I'm not really excited. I'm asked by people around me, why aren't you excited? It's because of how I know people are going to receive it. I almost predict, I know exactly who's going to say what. And sometimes that hurts even more. Develop resilience. God puts you in that service for a reason. God put it on your heart to serve these youth for a reason. And not everyone is going to love you. And not every parent is going to say you're doing an amazing job. And not every servant is going to be a bigger support. But guess what? That's when you put yourself away, put God in front, and tell him, you know what, I'm hiding behind you. Help me to build those, you know, and bones and make me stronger. And finally, lead with a purpose. It is so important to lead with a purpose. It is so important to have that vision. Why are you going into youth ministry? Why are you going to serve these people? Is it for you or is it for them? Are you bored of teaching the little kids? Are you tired of middle school attitude? So you're deciding that you want to be in youth service? Why are you being in youth service? Why are you thinking about it? So make sure that you lead with a purpose. I want to play this for you. It's a good way to summarize.
في ذهني كلام كثير يقوله وفي قلبي كلام أكثر من هذا ولكني أفضل الصمت. وأنا أريد أن أصمت لكي يتكلموا. عبيرا والله يسمع هذا الصوت. الله يسمع هذا الصوت ويدرك كل معانيه وكل ما نعانيه. ونحن في كل ما يحيطنا من متاعب إنما نطرح المشكلة أمام الله ونتركها في يديه ونقول له لتكن مشيئتك. إن أردت أن تحل المشكلة لتكن مشيئتك، وإن أردت أن نأخذ بركة صغير نحمله.
This was after a group of youth in the church in Alexandria and the church on Harambee. They did a play, and Alexandria is known for terrorist movements and Father Angelos prides himself that he was a classmate in Alexandria School of Medicine with Ayman Zawab. We're not gonna go there. And at that time, it was rumored that this church play was anti-Islamic and anti. And everyone that was in the play, their names went on a special list, issued arrests for them. And one of the deaconesses, as she was walking out of the church, she was stabbed. And Pope Shenouda, in a Wednesday sermon, talked, but then you saw his tears. Being a leader does not mean it's not gonna hurt. Being a servant leader, you're gonna feel more and more. your heart will be poured out for these kids. And that day, actually, Pope Shenouda cried. The rest of it is Malam Ibrahim held the mic and they started singing a song until he stopped crying. And so, it's very important to know even the greatest leaders that ever lived, the pinnacle, right? We said Pope Shenouda is an example of pinnacle leadership. He cried. Jesus himself cried. Jesus wept. So it's okay when you are doing that you feel the resistance, you feel this, you feel that. Again, if you think you're getting into youth ministry because it's a promotion, it's a demotion. Okay? Being a servant in itself it's not a position. This is actually the end of my presentation. However, I didn't email you this, Ivan, but maybe you could take a picture and post it for people online. I created a kind of a reflection. It's a one-page reflection, and you don't have to write much. But something to have. I'll give you about 5 minutes, Gila. And then if you have questions or anything, I will take them up. But basically, what I did was I took what I kind of blabbed about for the past few hours. And I asked you a few questions. I'm asking you to take 5 minutes to do personal reflection. Who influenced my faith the most growing up? What qualities did that leader demonstrate? Which leadership level am I currently operating at? And please don't say pinnacle. Like, if you say pinnacle, then everything I said means nothing right now. What is one area I need to grow in as a leader? And one young person I will intentionally mentor this year. Could be someone in your Sunday school class. It could be someone in your family, whoever it is. And then final commitment statement. It says, as a leader in youth ministry, I commit to leading with humility, serving others first, and helping the next generation grow in Christ. I'm asking you to sign it and date it. It's up to you, but it's something nice to have. So I'll give you this. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes, and then I'll take any of your questions. And if you don't have questions, I'm gonna send you home. I think we have enough here for everything. I have more.
If we do, then it's going to be a better thing. I will put you in groups. If we don't, you'll just be working with a partner. And I have tons of stories that I've created. Again, what I would like you to do out of your own service, so or things that you've heard, or when you were growing up in youth service, if there's anything that you want to, a story that sticks up and sticks out for you, and you want to kind of see how it would be resolved, just send it to the admin pass it on to me. We'll leave it anonymous, obviously. I'll make up stories, and we'll create it, and then we are going to work through it based on what we've learned about leadership. Okay? Thank you, and enjoy the first long day of the year. And I will see you right before Easter, correct? April 9th? Yeah. So you'll have me right before you eat the lahma, which is April. Oh, it's the last Sunday of the Lent. The last Sunday of the Lent, you'll be blind and you will see after, thank God. It will be right before Palm Sunday. Okay? So we're almost there. Good. Thank you, everyone. Have a great 2 weeks off, and think of those stories. Let me know. Otherwise, you'll get my stories. Thank you.